And we are joined now by Secretary of State candidate Shawaski Young, who has had an interesting political journey lately. And we got something to talk about this morning that I think everybody's talking about, and they're really going to be talking about starting tomorrow, and that's the government shutdown and the impact on SNAP benefits and the sheer number of fingers pointing at other people as the problem instead of themselves. Shawaski, how you doing this morning? Great to have you here.
Dave, thank you so very much for having me here on SuperTalk. I'm doing quite well, and I hope you and your family are doing well as well.
I got a question for you. Can we go back to, say, junior high rules in Washington and just start thumping people on the back of the head when they do something stupid? I mean, our fingers going to get tired, but it might be more effective than what we're doing now because this blame game is kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. And, somewhere in between Democrats and Republicans blaming each other lies the truth. And unfortunately, that truth lies with the fact that, Democrats are not being honest about why we're in this government shutdown in the first place. And in between that time, millions of Americans, stand to lose, like today, the military not getting paid, air traffic controllers not getting paid. This is the last day for congressional staffers in D.C. to actually get paid. And also, that stands between that, the end of government programs such as SNAP on tomorrow, decreased funding in WIC, and also, a lot of folks may not know this, but the end of Head Start, which affects about 60 million kids across our country.
And all of that goes away, at least temporarily, until we get the government funded again. The problem that I see, this is the fundamental disconnect I'm having here, Shawaski. You have Chuck Schumer, you have the rest of the Democratic Party standing up there and continuously leaning into one of their standard moves, which is don't believe your brain, don't believe your eyes, don't believe your ears. It's actually not our fault. Why do they think that this still works in 2025?
Well, I think, that what the Democrats are doing all over the country, and particularly in the Senate and also the U.S. House of Representatives, what they're doing is using this particular moment as a scare tactic for the midterms. What they're doing is capitalizing on fear tactics to somehow prove that anyone who supports the Republican Party, and specifically Donald J. Trump, have it out for America. That's the lies that are being told, and that's what they're betting on for the midterm. And they're willing to sacrifice food assistance. They're willing to sacrifice the daily business of our country, all at the behest of making sure that they can say that we put up a fight against the Republicans, knowing full well that they have an opportunity now over 15 times to open up the government. And what we're seeing is a denial within the Democratic Party to do so. All because they want to be able to say we're fighting the Republicans, knowing full well the Republicans have given ample opportunity to open up the government and also put forth a clean funding bill that even Chuck Schumer back in March of this year actually supported. But what they want to be able to do is move forward with a far left Marxist socialist agenda that's actually putting the party further to the left. That's the Democratic Party. To somehow say this is what the country actually wants. And it's a scary thing because we see what's happening in New York with this new possible mayor, Mindani. We see what's happening all over the country in some of our cities that are ran by socialist Democrats. Folks like, even Bernie Sanders and AOC in Congress, they're putting forth an agenda that is directly in conflict with what the American people want and believe. But this is a way for them to gin up votes. And it's sad that, people in the military, people in our federal government and civil service, as well as people who are in need of public assistance, have to suffer because of it.
Well, and one thing that I think bears repeating is you don't have to have a bunch of the Democrats to support the continuing resolution to get it passed, get the government open, and allow people to buy, food to feed their family with SNAP benefits. You need what is it, 7? It's 7 or 8, I think it is, that need to break off and vote.
That's right. I think basically right now they have a threshold of about 5 to 7 votes that are actually needed from the Democrats to actually pass this. But here's something that's interesting. Over the last 24 hours, President Trump has gone to Truth Social, his social media company, and his social media outreach arm, to basically state to the Republicans, hey, it's time for us to use the nuclear option, and that means basically getting some type of way to get the filibuster amended or eradicated in the United States Congress, where a 60-vote majority is no longer needed, but just a majority of Senate Republicans can actually do that. We'll see if that happens or not. Certainly don't know if it's possible for something like that to happen today on the eve of what will be the SNAP benefit shutdown. But we'll see what happens. It's early in the morning. We'll see how they do.
Well, and I think it's going to potentially be an interesting day. I don't think anything's going to happen because Senator Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, adjourned the Senate yesterday and sent everybody home. They're not even there. The House hasn't been there, so I don't know if anything could be done today, even if suddenly they woke up this morning and Senator Schumer's meds kicked in and he decided to do something to keep people from going hungry. So as a result, I think we're kind of stuck in this situation right now. But talking about only needing, we'll go with 7. You only need 7 Democratic votes. In times past, what you do is you go find 7 people and kind of use them as the scapegoat, and you throw them out there and say, okay, we're going to pass this. We're going to need you to vote for this. Now, I'm going to fuss at you a little bit in public over this, but it's all okay. This is all the way it works. This is just politics as it exists. So you go do that. You vote for it. Let's get things back open for the people, and then we'll move on. It just feels like that's no longer an option to the Democrats because they no longer care about the people of America. That's the image they're presenting, unless I'm misreading this, Shawaski.
No, I think that you're hitting it right on the head, and you got it just right. And I think it actually may be 5 votes that are needed. But what's unfortunate about this situation is that they know well back before the October 1st deadline actually came up about 30 days ago, that they had an opportunity to go forth and have a conversation with the Republicans about these Obamacare tax credits. And what it actually is basically the extended tax credits that are on top of Obamacare, because Obamacare is permanently funded, right? It doesn't have to be annually reallocated, but it's the extended tax credits, which, is a point of contention. And what this means is that, that some people who have Obamacare already cannot afford Obamacare. Republicans know that. They want to, make some changes to Obamacare. And the Democrats are not willing to do that. And so what they did was said, we're going to draw a line in the sand, use this for a campaign anchor for the midterms that are coming up, that if you can, not open the government, we can say it's the Republicans' fault, and more importantly, Donald Trump's fault in the big, beautiful bill, which is not true, and not open the government. And to me, that is a clear indicator that if Democrats truly cared about what they say they care about, reasons for which I left the Democratic Party because I knew it wasn't true. If they really cared about, the best interests of our people here in the United States, if they really cared about making sure that poor folks had an opportunity to, get food assistance. And if they really cared about making sure that our military was paid and the things that govern our country accordingly are in the place of business and remaining solvent, then they wouldn't do this. So I think that the proof is in the pudding, as some people say. But we see it right here in Mississippi as well. Right here in our state, all of our Republicans that are represent us in the United States Congress, both in the House and the Senate, want the government to be open. Other folks like Benny Thompson, they don't, right? And they want to use fear tactics to gin up votes. They know that this is something that will make folks upset if they say that, hey, it's the Republicans that are not caring, that don't want to see people get food assistance, that's something that could possibly gin up votes for them. You also see it from the Mississippi Black Legislative Caucus just yesterday, putting out a letter asking Governor Reeves to use state emergency funds and to meet with him or open up a special session in order to tap into particular benefits here in our state to fund SNAP programs. And it's all just a ploy. They know that that's something that comes from the federal government, not states, right? The SNAP program is not a state-funded program. So we need to be able to be honest about this situation.
Well, and SNAP cannot be a state-funded program because the vast majority of states don't have the revenue to fund it. Not at the level that it's been going for a while. Yeah.
Well,
we've got Shawaski Young with us. Can you stick around through the break?
I'd love to, Dave. Thank you so much for inviting.
Well, I mean, we're not going to let him go off and actually live a life. We're going to keep him here talking. Shawaski Young with us here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll continue the conversation right after this. Keep it here. Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here, joined by Shawaski Young. You mentioned it a minute ago. We've talked to you about it before, but I want to just touch on it again. You were a part of the Democratic Party. You were active. You no longer are, and quite vigorously no longer are active in the Democratic Party. You have swapped over to the Republican Party. Was that move prompted by something as simple as looking up one day and realizing these people have lost the thread? They've lost the plot. They don't know what they're doing anymore.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dave. So quite frankly, yes. It was a come to Jesus moment for me that, started in November of 2023 when I wrote about it in the Clarion Ledger in an article that was entitled Liberalism, a Unconstrained View of My Political Aspects of My, thinking and things of that nature at that particular time. And I embraced a conservative social, economic and social policy. Then later in October of 2024, I officially announced that I was no longer a Democrat and had joined the Republican Party. And it was because of this far left socialist type of agenda that I actually saw. I did not agree with anything that, at that time, Vice President Harris was saying when she was running for president. I did vote for Donald Trump in that particular election. And I saw that, when we're looking at, for the first time ever, proposing to, eliminate, capital gains taxes and taxing them in such a way where people can't even make money in the market. People can't, make money from their private investments in the way they actually should and are being penalized for taking advantage of a free market system. When we look at, Democrats wanting things like abortion on demand, this entire LGBTQ and transgender agenda that they're putting forth in the country that changes the aspects of what we should be teaching our children and how we should be living our lives. It ran counter to the Christian values that I was raised right here in Mississippi, in East Central Mississippi. I'm a country boy. I grew up in Noxapater in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and I played piano in the church. I sang in the church choir and graduated from Jackson State University and got an opportunity to go across the country with some pretty cool jobs and, end up managing multi-million-dollar campaigns at the federal government level for domestic terrorism and other places, managing multi-million-dollar benefits. And back home here in Mississippi, and now that I was here in Mississippi, I just saw that this is not who I am, and this is not who people want their communities to be represented by, or how we actually want to live our lives. So, I left the Democratic Party. I took a lot of flack back from that. But since joining the Republican Party, look, it's like coming home to me. I've been traveling around the state since June 21st when we announced our campaign for Secretary of State. And I've been speaking with Republican clubs all across the state since then. And there are a lot of Republican clubs that are set up going into the new year. And I think that it's going to be a great campaign. I think I'm going to win this particular race. And I look forward to being the next Secretary of State of Mississippi on the Republican banner.
Do you think it's a fair statement to say that for the Democrats, as they become more and more influenced by the far leftist agenda and mindset, to be welcomed by the Democrats, you've got to check all the right boxes. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to agree with this. You've got to agree with that. Whereas, as someone who has made this swap recently, to come to the conservatives, to the Republican Party, you just have to walk in, have some sense, and say, hey, I'm with you, and you get welcomed. Is that a true statement?
That is an absolutely true statement, and it's especially a true statement that I want to be able to echo throughout the Black community here in Mississippi. We need more Black folks in Mississippi to be honest about what we believe in. The Black community in Mississippi is extremely conservative, extremely Christian-based, and it's extremely churched. So, those policies of abortion on demand, this idea that, this transgender community of boys and girls bathrooms and boys playing in girls sports and things of that nature are not what the African American Black community believe. And I think that what's important for us to do is something that, I heard earlier this week, up in Oxford. I was in Oxford the day before Vice President Vance and Erica Kirk actually got there. I wasn't there for the event, but I was there the day before. And I watched it on, line like many other people did. And I think the advice that Vice President Vance actually gave not only students and attendees, there are thousands up in Oxford, but also all over the country, was one of which that we all should take in, and one of which that has always made the truest difference in the lives of the American people if we're willing to be honest. And that's making sure this right here. And I want to get his quote right when he said, if you care about this country, you love it enough to get involved, love it enough to get involved in the process and how we govern it. That's the only way we can save the United States of America, and perhaps the greatest contribution that you can make in the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Now, I think that is exactly what we should be doing. And we got to be involved, and we got to elect the right people in office. And the only way we can do that is getting involved in the political process, knowing who we actually are voting for, and knowing what they stand for. And if you're someone like me, know that they have been tried, tested, and have stayed up at night, that, what they're saying out of their mouth are the convictions of their spirit. So that's what I, believe is the best way forward.
Shawaski Young suggests a campaign slogan for you. Just say, enough is enough. That kind of sums it up, I think. That's where
I've
we're
been
at.
seeing that. I like it as well, too.
Thank you so much for coming on with us, and we'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it, Dave. Thank you so much, and happy Friday to you. Best we can have it.